I barely know how to use this thing. In a while. We are drawing things. But I think I'm not gonna draw anything. Not today. Monogame. Print to console. Open the properties for your Monogame project. What the fuck does that mean? Like, what does that actually mean? Console application there. Turn this fucking thing off, dude. Serious? Oh no, this window is supposed to be this. There. And then you do console write line, debug.writeLine. Yeah, it's writing test every update. I wonder... Need a sprite font. Jesus. C# debug.writeLine. What does flush do? I would like to... Can you clear the debugger? I don't know. Can I run this in... I'd like to just run it as like a command window. Graphics device manager. What happens if we don't have a graphics manager? What is a graphics device? What if we don't have a sprite batch? Is that a big deal? No graphics device service. Alright, no, that doesn't work. I'm really not sure what I'm doing, or what I want to do, or what to do. Sprite font. A native DirectX 3D 11 implementation of a bitmap font renderer. No, I don't want a renderer, bro. I just want a font. Sprite font. Basic sans serif. %100% free. Download. Alright. That's a font. We can use that font. Making coffee. All right. So we've got a billion files here, but none of these are actually a sprite font. So what's the idea there? By default, the font Arial will be used by the sprite font configuration. Okay, no, I don't need to actually install anything. Open. Execute. Okay, I thought you could run it from here, but I guess not. Let's see. Monogame content build project. Repos. Monogame. Oh wait, no. I need to open? Yeah, we need to open it. Monogame. Content. That's the one. There we go. Oh no, that's a new project. This is what we want to press. New item. Sprite font description. Localized sprite font description. Sprite font. Alright. My font. Double click on your new font file. In my default editor. Fuck you. By default, it will be used by the sprite font configuration. But there's nothing here, right? I mean, I don't have a sprite font editor. Like, what is my default sprite font editor? Like, I don't know what that even means. But whatever. To draw text on the screen. There we go. That's all I want. Undo this. Hit run. Yes. Alright, in that case, let's switch this back. Windows app. Where'd it go? Create a sprite font reference. Sprite font 1. Vector 2, font position. Font 1 equals content.load. Right font. My font. Viewport equals Is this outdated as fuck? What is viewport? No, maybe no, it is. It is right. Graphics device viewport. So we're just fetching the viewport. And then we're setting font position equals new vector 2 viewport.width divided by 2 viewport.height divided by 2. In your game.draw method, call write batch.begin. Begin. On the sprite batch object, call sprite batch.drawString. To draw your output text. It wants a sprite font, so that's... I'm gonna sneeze. Font 1. Text is gonna be text. Position is gonna be font position. Color is gonna be color.white. Try again. Really? Oh, okay. It's because we're doing begin, and we need to do sprite batch.end. We got text. That's huge. That means we can actually just start doing things. Okay. So let's say int timer, global timer. Let's call it something like that. I'm then we're gonna say initialize global timer equals 0. And then in update, we're gonna say global timer plus equals 1. And then here, we're gonna say, because here we need draw string, right? However, we only have an integer. Let's toString that. And then we'll see what happens here. Alright, it's working, it's counting shit. Let's say global, let's say time. Does this work? Beautiful, beautiful. Next, let's say this is font position, right? Let's say timer position. And that's then gonna be what's 0? Where does 0 end up? 0 is top left. Okay. I think that's good. We can keep that there. That's just a little test to get it to work. And what we want to do now is we want to create some kind of update. But I don't want really any code in the update, if I can avoid it. So what should we call that? What should we do? What is it that I want to do? I want to do world generation, but not necessarily world generation right away, because that's a pain in the ass. But I would like to simulate a population, I think. But how should I do that? I'm just thinking, like, how would I structure it? Should I just start with like a city? Let's do that. So how do we make classes in this shit? We've got content there. So let's script's the right word? Is script the real word? I don't even know. Why is this closing? I don't like this. I don't like this at all. I guess it's fine. It's actually not that bad, I suppose. What should I call this? This isn't necessarily like world generation, but we are doing proc gen. It's great. It's a good idea. Should it be like that? How does it look in the dinosaur project? Content, entities, graphics system. Nah, okay, fine. Let's just do... Let's just do that then. And this class should be called... City? Maybe? Maybe. And then we make another one. Call this... Population, maybe. Make another one. I'm not used to working like this. I've never really worked in anything other than Unity or similar. Class, this should be called Generation, I think. It should be a public class. I don't know why it's private. So, what is the idea here? The idea is that we're going to create a city, and the city is going to consist of a population, and the population is going to consist of generations, right? So the generation will have a public integer called I feel like population would be not kind of good here, but I don't want to use that. People count? Just people count? Something? What else does a generation consist of? I don't think it really needs to consist of much else right now. But it could consist of... birth year or something. Maybe... because a generation doesn't have to be like a literal generation, or like a generation in the way we see it. It could be just like one generation per year or something like that. And that's it. guess. And then the population should be public as always. Don't really know why you would have a private class. This should then consist of a public generation. That's not true. It should be a generation list, right? It needs a constructor. Generation list equals new list. I feel like a generation should consist of, let's see. It needs some references, I think. Public, population. Source, population, maybe. Shitty, but whatever. So here we have a population and public void generate population, and then that should be generation list and glist dot add new population. This, right? No, new generation. This. Public generation. Source, no, population, source, source population equals source pop. It should also take a birth year. Int birth year. And it should take I'm not sure. I could just make it take some people, or like take a value for population size. But that's not really how it's meant to be. How it's meant to work. But and I actually prefer it when it's like that. Just do this. I prefer that. I really, one of the things I hate the most is trying to come up with properties that are just like slightly different. So like you're like source pop, like B year, P count or whatever. Like I hate that so much. I'd rather just do this. This feels a lot cleaner, a lot less tedious. Because sometimes if you have something called like int time or whatever, you're gonna call it int t. Like I just call it time. I hate using like one letter variable names. No, we did that already. Source pop equals source pop. I already did that too. Like, what am I doing? Yeah. But again, this is not really how it's meant to work. So I'm gonna make another constructor that just doesn't take people count. Or rather, let's do this. People count is option. There. Int people count equals 0. So the idea is that maybe alright, it's like preliminary now, but a previous generation is going to begin spawning a new generation, right? So this generation is going to, over the course of the year, going to be like the people count is going to be added to, right? Now, the next question is like, at which year do people start having children? Now it's a political stream. Generate population. All right, so what else does it need? Source population, birth year, people count. Right, so here we have an optional people count. In generation, we have an optional people count. Because what's gonna be necessary is to generate the population beforehand, right? Like we can't start adding you know, creating new generations without having established generations already. So like at some point we have to just hard create some generations, right? And that's what this is. See, this here isn't really necessary to mess with right now. All we need is a population. Because a city is just a container for a population, so it doesn't really matter. Like, I would just be like, new population, whatever. So right now, all we need to fuck around with is one population. And figure out something to do with that. Now, what I want here is I want a public int population count. Population count equals 0. But what about the population here too? I feel like this should also so, okay. Here, right? In game1.cs, here I have a lot of things. Like you have load content, you have initialize, game1, draw, etc. You've got all of this stuff here. But what I'm not so sure about is if I want to treat this as the main script. I kind of feel like I want to treat this as like the back end. And because of that, I wonder if I want to have another script. That's like a controller that I don't need to be quite as clean in. System. This is going to be the main controller, because there might be other controllers. I don't know why it's, I genuinely don't know why they're private, to be honest. Like, what the fuck am I gonna do with a private class? I don't even know how that works. Alright. Then we say public main controller game1 system what should I call it? I don't like system. Because that's something that Main controller. Maybe we just call it like system controller. Or something. Right, and then here we have a game 1 system controller. This dot system controller equals system controller. That way, the main controller has access to the backend. Not sure if this is necessary, but I just know this is gonna get like ultra cluttered if I don't do that. And it needs to be public, right? Because everything's gonna need to access the main controller. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Now, what happens first, to load content or initialize? Monogame execution pipeline. Alright, it doesn't say. Based. Execution order. Sample project showing monogame execution order. Okay, can we just tell me what the execution order is? Why? Flashbang. Is it running? No. Well, so much for that. Game 1, it says log message. Okay, what is it doing? It's building a string. Log message, log message. Console.writeLine. It's not printing anything. Skip loading symbols. Module is optimized and debugger option just my code is enabled. Alright. This project is targeting a version of .NET which is not installed. What does that mean? Out of support. I love that. Let's use that. Alright. What is happening? Yeah, I would like to recover those files. I think. Bro just deleted my entire project. Thanks. How about now? I genuinely don't understand what this project is trying to achieve. I don't want fucking Copilot. Let's see. On process exit string path monogame execution.csv. Okay. So it is actually writing something to here. But it's in bin, right? mygameexecution.csv. That's the file. Does that open in Notepad? Yes. There we go. Game 1, this is the constructor. My game component, this is constructor. Game 1 on activated. Game 1 initialize. My game component initialize. Initializing that. My drawable game component load content. Game 1 load content. Begin run update. Okay. So initialize always runs first. Or where's my project? I don't have a start. Let game 1 start. Okay. So it's not an actual start process, it's just called that. Or he's just writing that. My game component. What is that? Var game equals new my game execution game 1. My game component. Game 1. So game 1 happens. Right? That's that. And then he adds an on process exit. The new graphics device manager actually doesn't register. But I think that's fine. Because we're just trying to figure out which ones execute in which order. Game 1 on activated. Game 1, so on activated is prior to initialize. Game 1 runs. And then my drawable game component is created here. Or this is my game component and my drawable game component. They're both created there. And they only run their start, right? And once this is over, then that's when it hops over to on activate, which on activated here. Yeah. Object sender. and then initialize. Then my component, my drawable game component, initialize load content, game 1 load content, begin run. Okay, so begin run happens after load content. This could be important, right? What is begin run? Begin run. So this is like a one-time execution that happens before update, but after load content. Which would mean, I feel, that you could use that technically. Technically, you could use begin run to do like initialization that requires load content to have ran before that. But you can also just do that in load content, so it doesn't really matter. Because you can just load the content and then you can just do whatever you need it to do. Right. And then it's just update, 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 update. We got begin draw. And now it's just gonna be like a billion updates here until I turn the game off. In which case it does end draw, end run, on exiting, unload content, dispose, 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 unload content. Okay. I'm not gonna remember any of that, but, you know, good to know. Initialize happens before load content. Do I want the begin run? Maybe I do want to have begin run. I don't really know why I wouldn't. In the Dinosaur project, we didn't really use anything like that. We just do everything in load content pretty much. It's just one of those things where I feel like it would be nice to do things in a different place. So like here we actually just load content, and then in begin run we actually do something else, right? So that this is an actual load step. Now the real question is, what did it actually look like? So you just do this. Begin run, and that's it. What is base begin run though? What does that mean? Decompiled. Do we do that last? It kind of looks like they do the base thing last, so maybe that's the way to do it. I don't know. But yeah, in that case, we can do this. So if we have a main controller, what do we want to do with the main controller? Do I even want to create the main controller there? I kind of feel like I don't. Not sure. Because the main controller would probably want to happen after content is loaded. Because that's how I feel here, right? Like, initializing, this is where you handle, like, basic stuff, like window and settings and shit like that. While, and then you load content and files and whatnot. And then after that, that's when you do actual other things, such as creating the main controller script, you know, whatever. Setting up the actual start of the game. Because you don't want to do that here, right? Like, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And then in here, we would want to say main controller. Public void update. Which apparently always sends in a game time. Let's take a game time. But yeah, like here in game, we handle stuff like this, like fonts, controllers, the sprite batch, and then stuff like this. This is a timer, global timer. I don't really have any real use for that. It's just some shit that I just made, just because to have something to do. Then we can put that here. I feel like that makes more sense to me, at least to keep things a little clean. And public void in run. I don't think it needs that. Because whatever we need to initialize can just be done in the constructor, right? So here, we have that, global timer, equals 0. Though this doesn't need to be a part of that, right? Like, this is something that I always do that I guess is a little bit of a bad practice. Because in Unity, I kind of don't trust this all the time. Because I don't trust Unity, because it's a piece of shit. But I guess just setting variables like this is fine. Because otherwise, my main controller in my Unity project, it's just full of shit like this. You know, just to initialize the vector. And it's just like ultra turbo cluttered, and it's really, really bad. So I think I'm gonna avoid doing that. We're just gonna set stuff as we declare the variables, and then hope that that actually works. Right? And then there we do that. And here with the update, we're gonna say global timer plus equals 1. But now, this is where I'm a little bit more unsure. If this makes sense. Because here we have the draw step, right? So... Right, let's see. Let's look at the dinosaur project. The dinosaur project was actually not bad. So we have the draw there, right? But we also create T-Rex.draw there, which works just like that. It takes in the sprite batch and whatnot. So my main controller just needs a draw step. That should take a sprite batch. And a game time. Right? Or did it even take a game time? Everything takes a game time. Right? And then we say sprite batch dot draw something. There. And then here, instead of saying dot draw string, we're gonna say main controller dot draw. No. Main controller dot draw. Game time. No. B time. Sprite batch. And now here is always something that I'm like unsure about. But basically like, do I want to have this? Because that way it can, you know, you can always... This is one of those things where I'm like, I'm not really sure which way I like doing it. Because you can just do this, give it a public static self-referential access variable. And that way you can just access the main controller from everywhere, from anywhere, at any point. Which I'm like, that's fine, right? Like, it is fine. But at the same time, I could just also pass in the main controller to stuff, but that's also like it's just the same thing, right? And this is just like a million times easier. I don't know, man. And then here, system controller dot Arial font. My text is gonna be time plus global timer. Again, same thing as always. Position should be timer position. And color should be color dot white. Update is doing that. We got the timer running. So this is fine, right? Now, dinosaur project. Elapsed time times total seconds. What is this? I think this is delta time, but I'm not sure. Yeah. Time since last frame. I think this is a super weird like variable name for this. Like elapsed game time, total seconds. That's not what that sounds like at all. That sounds like it's the total time since the game has started to me. But it's actually the delta from the last update. Right, which is fine. So that's the global timer, right? Change the global timer to a float. And then we multiply it. I would just cast it. Then we cast the global timer to an integer as we print it. Now this is seconds. Right? And now we're gonna do something else. Public. Now this is something where I'm a little bit like... Yeah, I don't know. It would kind of be nice to have something like... But it doesn't... It doesn't have any access to this. What would that be? Like an internal? I don't think so. Because that's not how this works. But like, just being able to sort out your methods into like a thing could be nice personally, but I think it's kind of stupid. Because you can just do begin region. Region. Methods and region. Public. Void. What am I doing right now? Generate population. Then we run that there. Public int starting year. Public int starting population size. Starting year equals, let's say 100, maybe. Starting population size 10,000. Public int starting generation count equals 80. Oh, yes, starting year. And let's just... Now that kind of sucks. It should be more like people count. Whenever people count is set here, do a getter setter. No, that's kind of difficult. So what I want to do here is I want to say source population dot population count plus equals value minus people count. But how's that gonna work? Like, if I say people count plus equals 1, for example, what is value gonna be? Is value gonna be people count plus 1? Is that how that gets fed in? I kind of assume that would be the case. Because plus equals 1 is just shorthand for equals people count plus 1, right? So if I do population count or people count plus 1, then that would add plus 1 to the population count. So the reason I'm doing it like this is so, I mean, I could do it via the population too, but here I kind of just want to do it so that whenever the population in the generation changes, it just adjusts the count in the population so that whenever I want the population count, I don't have to go through the entire list. And like sum everything together. So there's just always a value there. Oh. I actually have like no clue how to do this. And it's one of the reasons I haven't really started any side projects, because everything I think of is way too complicated. And I'm really not sure where to start. So I'm just starting somewhere now, and then we'll see. I don't think what I'm doing right now is good or anything. It's just I'm just doing something. I just want to try generating and simulating like one population of a city, and just trying to like figure out how to expand on that and add stuff to that. And here, yeah, int starting year, int starting population size. No. Int population size. Birth year. Well, no, let's generate population, right? Well, whatever. Starting year, let's go with that. And in generation count. What am I doing? Oh, yeah, population has... I'm gonna call it just generate so that it's less confusing with this one. And so we're generating that. Well... Then people count should be that divided by generation count. Okay, so generation count can't be 0 there, so that's fine. Right? Oh, that didn't really do anything. Right? So we're generating a population. It's a new population, generate starting population size, generation count. Right, generation count. Alright, so now we have a generation count of 20,000 for some reason. We're generating the population. And I'm creating a generation here. And we're adding a generation. But I don't need to do that, because I've already set people count as a getter or as a setter to do that. Alright, so now we have 80 generations and 10,000 people. So what now? Now I feel like we should handle people like dying off. Should we call that? Handle death. In current year. And then we're gonna say public int life expectancy equals 80. Let's go with magic 80 there. And then we're gonna say I guess it doesn't really matter. I was just thinking of like what formula would I use here to calculate if somebody's like if they're gonna die. Um, maybe it does work. Okay, so let's see. Int test equals random dot range. No. Oh. We really need to do that. Returns a non-negative random integer that is less than the specific maximum. Could this be a float? Maybe current year and life expectancy should just be floats. And then we'll say same thing with birth year. I mean, birth year shouldn't need to be, but it doesn't really matter. Like, it's the same, like, whatever. So, if we do current age equals current year minus birth year. And float death rate equals current age divided by life expectancy. What do we get? 40 divided by 80, for example. I mean, this doesn't make any sense. Like, if the life expectancy value I choose is 80, then it's a little weird, right? Because right now the way I'm doing it is kind of like when when you're 80, you're like guaranteed to be dead. That's kind of what it means. So if I just do something like this, so if they're at 80, then they should basically have a death rate of 50%. What if we don't do random or anything here? We just do it like this. Only like this. This is super basic. And then we say people count times equals death rate. Equals float people count times death rate. Or it's automatically casted when you do that. So it right. So then we handle death like that. And then here, we're gonna say public int current year equals starting year. Right? And then here we're now we have the global timer, right? And public float year timer equals 0. But actually public float underscore year timer equals 0 f. And this is a get turn year timer set value year timer equals value. But I want to say See, then we have the global timer, right? Set global timer equals value. Get return global timer. And then here I want to say year timer plus equals value minus global timer. And then here I want to say if year timer plus value is greater than float year time. Year length. Year length. Year length. Then we're gonna say current year plus equals 1. And then we're gonna say value equals, can you do that? Value equals year timer plus value minus year length. And then year timer gets set to value. No, this is wrong, right? This is just gonna be value because we're doing year timer plus value minus global timer, but we're doing plus equals. So this value is actually the value added to year timer, right? So if value is greater than year length, then current year plus 1, and then value equals value minus year length, which we're gonna set to 10. And then year timer equals value. Something like that. And then we need current year also a getter and a setter. Set current year equals value. But then we're also going to say Uh, public void handle deaths. If population, can you do that? No, you can't. Not equal no. Then population dot, we don't have handle deaths there. Quite frankly, I don't even know what to do there. 4 generation list. If generation list equals null, then return. Otherwise, we're going to go through each generation. Generation list I dot handle that. Something like that. What's gonna happen now? It crashed. Stack Overflow. That's cool. Right. I should change the year to be like 1 second. Holy shit! We just lost 50% of the population. They're dying! Dying so bad! Right now we can't really lose generations in any way. Because we're only destroying a percent. Well, actually, right? Generation count. We got population dot generation list dot count. So as we handle deaths here, we can say if people count is less than or equal to 0, then source population dot generation list dot remove this. We lost 3 generations? But why? Isn't that weird? We're losing generations. Losing a lot of generations. I figured we'd lose like 1 generation per year, but we're losing like 1 billion. Why is that? Current age, current year minus birth year, right? So when we generate this, I'm saying starting year minus 1. That's the birth year of the generation. $10,000 divided by 80, that's 125, right? So what's 79 divided by 80? I think this is why. So times 125, right? Or rather, 1 times 125. I feel like this should be... I feel like this should make sense, right? Well, I mean... Oh no, I get it, I get it, I get it. I understand now. So, right now the population count is just evenly divided, right, by 10,000. Or it's just 10,000 evenly divided by 80. So we have 125 1-year-olds and we have 125 80-year-olds. And then what happens is that the people who are 80 years old, once 1 year passes, 100% of them die, right? And the people who are 79 years old, there's 1.56 people remaining, which means 1, because we call the, or we truncate the decimals. And that should kill 1 generation first, right? But then that means that on the next year, we might have like 2 people left on the 78-year-olds. And then they're gonna lose like 98% of their population. And like 2% of 2 people, that's 0. So that's why like the entire generations die out there. That's why we lose multiple generations at a time, right? So ideally, like when you generate the initial population, you would have to make some kind of algorithm that spreads the people out. Like if you want to have 10,000 people, it needs to spread those 10,000 people out in a way that makes sense with how the life expectancy would work in practice, which I don't want to do now. So we're just gonna kill like everybody. But yeah, so that works. We can generate a population and generations, and then we slaughter them. Now, what's a little weird here well, I guess. Right, because here we're gonna generate a population, and it's generating using the starting year. So the first population is gonna have the birth year 100. And then it's gonna go back 79 times. So the last generation is actually not 80 years old, it's 79 years old. And that's why we're not losing a population on the first, or a generation on the first update, or on the first year. Because it still actually has one person in it. And so now it's gonna obliterate them there. Of that. Alright, so next current year 100. Yep. Why am I gaining population? And why is the generation count no longer going down? What? Wait, okay, so current year minus birth year. So if their birth year is like 80 and the current year is 140, then we'd subtract current year 140, 80, then we'd be at 60. Current age divided by life expectancy, 60 divided by its death rate. People count equals. So if they're like 90 divided by 80, it somehow, I don't know how, but somehow they're managing to live to like 90? How's that possible? But if they somehow manage to live even to just one, which I also don't really know how it could happen, but I guess it could happen in some edge case. But wait, is this reverse? Yeah, this is in reverse. So right now, if they're 1 year old, they're gonna die, right? So death rate should be 1 minus this. But still, this still has the issue. So if they're 1 year old, one divided by 80. But then like 85 divided by 80 is still... still gonna be negative. So if I can do it here. If death rate is less than 0, then 0, else death rate. It's going a lot faster now as well, because before it was like instantly just multiplying people. In just 20 years, my entire population is dead. So this algorithm is obviously stupid, but not the point right now. Yeah. So I guess we just try to expand it a bit from here. And so the idea is that we then add birth rate, and then we add more variables to make it more complex, and then we can affect each generation in different ways at certain intervals with like events and stuff. Like maybe the Black Plague hits, or maybe some illness hits that kills the more people the older they are. Maybe there's some illnesses that hit that kill younger populations. You know, maybe war breaks out and all the men have to go. That's something I should have, like men and women. Could be a percentage. Could be a percentage too. That would be probably easiest. I don't know. Let's just go with. Let's just go with this for now. Alright, and then we need to also implement like fertility and whatever. People need to breed. So whenever a new year passes, I'm going to generate a new generation. And one way, like the simplest way to do it, obviously, is to just generate the full population, like everybody had children at the same time. But I was also thinking you could do it like every tick. Maybe like you could add population to the younger generation, but I think that's stupid. I think that's too much. Because you should abstract as much as you can to make room for more population. Because the idea is that this is just like one population, and there might be many different cities and whatever nations, maybe. I don't know. And that's why it's best to do it in intervals only. But yeah, not really sure. And I'm not really sure where I'm going with this either. I'm not really sure what the game genre I want to implement something like this in, but I really do like world generation and procedural generation in general, so I want to see what we can do with that on this level, on like the macro level, and then we see. Because you can do like large scale macro in the sense that you can have like tons of countries and cities and stuff like that, and then you can do this on a large scale, but you can also do this on a smaller scale, and then you can like generate unique characters and stuff from this as like a basis for character generation. Because there might be like X amount of like notable people per generation or something like that, and then you follow those people more closely and handle those. It's like you don't want to handle 10,000 people doing things like that's stupid. And I think that's kind of how it would be, right? Like you generate notable people and then they influence the rest of the population. So you might have like a notable leader or whatever, and that might boost the economy, or it might just change the prosperity of the area, or the opposite. And then that will affect the population growth, and then that will affect how other notable characters end up being generated. And the larger scale of the macro, the less unique characters you would want to generate to handle like larger scale. But the smaller, like the more micro you make it, the more unique characters you can generate. Like, let's say you have like an area that's just one major city, and then you have like outlying, like smaller towns and stuff like that. Like it's just like one area. Then you can just have shitloads of unique characters generated from the city instead, and maybe even have more detail on the city itself. But yeah, that's like the current concept that I'm just working with, I guess. But I think that's gonna be it. It was a short stream. I just want to try getting back to doing some programming on the side as well, not just for my day job. I don't know how often I'll be doing this, but I'm gonna give it a go for a while, or maybe some days, I don't know. Anyway, until next time, thanks for hanging. I'll see you around.